I think we're talking a lot about the importance of obviously the lender part of this relationship as well as the specialist broker part. However, there are obviously other parties that developers need to have as part of this team, namely, quantity surveyors, accountants, solicitors, contractors. Can I come over to you, Elise, to talk about any sort of tips and advice that you put out to a client about what they should be looking out for when they're assembling this team around them?
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Karen. I think as we all know, the professional team is very important from a client point of view and also a lending point of view. There are some key staff members that you can have involved in your development, particularly if you're at the start of your development career. A good quality project manager and other professionals can really assist in regards to supporting the lender and giving you the gearing you're looking for. But I also think that there are other people that can be surrounded there. So architects, I think they bring a lot more than they're given credit for. I think they bring a lot to the table. They can also support with other key professional introductions as well. I think a good quality professional team around you is very key. But I will also say, not just because we are brokers, but a good broker is really valuable, because if you've got somebody who specializes in something else perhaps and they're going out to the market, they're not aware of that there's nuances or perhaps your nuances as a client. So I think having a good broker is a great start, because not only can they support you with your finance, but they can introduce those other key professionals if you're at the outset, and also remind you to check reviews and other professionals and have conversations surrounding those people. So I think really it's key to have a good professional team, but the broker's top of the list in my opinion.
Yeah, I think Elise touched on a really good point there, because a lot, why do you use a broker? And a lot of the time it's, it's knowledge of the market, but that's not necessarily just financial knowledge. That's knowledge of the process, knowledge of, well, what if things go wrong, how to get out of things later down the line. And, one thing that we work very closely with our clients is really staying with them right the way through the journey of, from start to finish of that development into the next one, and then that full journey. So, we'll attend the site visits, we'll look at the construction methods, you understand that, and making sure that the bank understand how they're doing things. Because if you're doing all of those things correctly, it makes the borrower's life a lot easier to draw down to get their money, and also makes the lender's life a lot easier to, in terms of the communication. And I'd say the bit that overlays that in terms of the professional team is really having a really good QS that really understands the bank, that really gets on well with the professional team, that's on site and delivering the construction, because that all then feeds back, and that's really the link, between bank and borrower drawdown. So again, having us, having a broker alongside that really just smooths that out. And if there are problems, and development's always got some form of a problem, program's gone out, something in the ground, or whatever it might be, where maybe the cost goes up a little bit, or maybe you have to, later down the line, there's almost like an option B, and you've paid down some of the loan, but you want to go back in because you've got an extra unit, or an extra few units on the scheme. So it's being able to communicate through the team properly to help the bank and the borrower ultimately.
I think just voicing on from what Julian said as well, I think in terms of when the monitoring surveyor does his initial sort of report for the lender, a lot of these things come out at the beginning in terms of any gremlins that could be there in terms of bill costs. I think a developer has to be extremely honest in prepping his reporting towards what they're going to be doing. Something where you're trying to think, well, certainly in the days of old when capital growth was flying, you could probably get away with that. But I think you have to be very, very honest with yourselves, and having, the backup of local agent knowledge in terms of comparative evidence that these are really, really important. And obviously, depending on the size of who you are as a developer, you'll probably have your own monitoring surveyor potentially in-house, like you would have your planning consultants. So a lot of this is done sort of well in advance. But if somebody's starting out, they're the keys. And obviously, we touched on with the contractors, you've really got to have an experienced contractor in what you're doing. you wouldn't be using a contractor on an airspace development if they've never done one before. So it's all those sort of things that have to come into that scenario, and also the lender's got to be comfortable with everything that's involved. So yeah, I mean, it's so important to have the right professional team around you. And again, you know, these are the things that, from a lender's perspective, when you know, Guy and Michael are looking at that, they're looking at you know, how strong these contractors are, and bits and pieces for that, ready to give them the comfort as well.
Yeah, and I think, from just jumping off the back of that, I guess from a lender's perspective, looking at all the different professional team involved is quite important. So I guess starting from an introduction from a broker, it always helps, I think, if a broker is saying, here's a new client, I've worked with them for, you know, a number of years, and these are all the successful schemes we've worked on together. Straight off the bat, when you get an inquiry like that, you're probably going to be a bit more bullish, maybe, in terms of leverage and pricing, just because you can straight away rely on the experience of someone having successfully worked with them before. So that's from the start. And then I think from a lending perspective, in terms of looking at the professional and team involved in the construction element, if they've worked with them on a number of sites, it always helps get us more comfortable. But yeah, I think important professional team is from broker to, you know, design team, structural engineer, architect, because a bad design team, first of all, can get you off to a bad start on the construction side. Then if they've worked with the, you know, the main contractor previously, that always helps and gets us more comfortable. And then, you know, I guess experienced developers will have all their sort of preferred suppliers of who they're buying everything from,